Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into a world where machine learning meets oil wells.
Yeah,
We're talking about predicting
that's right.
how much oil a well can produce,
Yeah,
something super important for energy companies.
absolutely. So we're diving into some research from the Society of Petroleum Engineers,
Okay.
and they've tackled this tricky problem of predicting what's called the total skin factor.
Okay, total skin factor.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit technical.
Yeah.
What does that mean
Sure.
for those of us who aren't oil engineers?
So think of it like this. Imagine a traffic jam,
Okay.
but for oil trying to flow into a well.
Uh-huh.
The higher the skin factor, the worse the traffic jam, and the less oil can get through.
So it's like a measure of
Yeah,
how easily the oil can flow.
exactly.
A high skin factor means trouble
Yeah.
for oil production.
Big trouble. And traditionally, figuring this out involved these expensive and time-consuming tests that disrupt the whole operation.
I bet. But
Yeah.
this paper talks about a new approach using machine learning.
Right.
So they're basically training a computer to predict this skin factor.
That's the idea. They use data from over 1,000 wells,
Wow.
which is a massive amount of information to train these computer models.
It's amazing what they can do with data these days.
Yeah.
They use something called deep learning and other machine learning methods.
Uh-huh. They tested a whole range of machine learning models. Think of them like specialized detectives,
Yeah.
each with its own way of analyzing the clues.
Uh-huh.
The impressive part is how accurate several of these models turned out to be.
So, like, if the model predicted a skin factor of 5,
Yeah,
the actual skin factor was pretty close to 5.
very close. We're talking about extremely low error rates,
Wow.
which means these models have real potential for making accurate predictions about oil well performance.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
What kind of information
Yeah.
do they feed these models?
Yeah.
I imagine it's more than just the depth of the well.
Oh, it's way more than that. They use data on the type of reservoir,
Okay.
the rate of oil and water flow,
Right.
pressures,
Okay.
and even details about the perforations.
Perforations.
Yeah, those are the holes made in the well to let the oil flow in.
Got it. So I'm guessing each well is kind of like a fingerprint then,
Yeah,
with its own unique combination of factors
Ah.
affecting its performance.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And this paper even describes a real-world test they did on a working oil well in Egypt. They
Okay.
used one of their best models,
Mhm.
the random forest model, to predict the skin factor.
Okay. So they put their money where their mouth is. Did it actually work?
The results were incredibly close. The model predicted a skin factor of 2.7,
Wow.
and the actual measured value was 2.6.
That's incredibly accurate. It seems like they're onto something big here. This could change the way oil companies operate.
Absolutely. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's take a closer look at how these machine learning models actually work. Because they're not magic, even though it might seem that way sometimes.
I was just thinking that. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
In part 2, we'll unpack the mysteries of machine learning and learn how these detectives crack the case of oil well performance.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've established that machine learning can predict oil well performance with impressive accuracy.
Right.
How does it actually work?
Mm-hmm.
We keep mentioning these models,
Yeah.
but what are they really?
It's easy to imagine a computer magically knowing things, but it's all about patterns.
Okay.
These machine learning models are essentially trained to recognize complex patterns in massive amounts of data.
So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, except the needle is a pattern that predicts how well the oil will flow.
Precisely. And there are different types of models, each with its own way of learning these patterns.
Right.
We talked about the random forest model being particularly successful in this study.
Right, the random forest. It sounds intriguing,
Yeah,
but I have no idea what that means.
sure.
Can you break it down for us?
Imagine a forest with tons of trees,
Okay.
and each tree represents a different way of analyzing the data.
Hmm.
The random forest model combines the predictions from all these trees
Oh,
to come up with a final answer.
so it's like getting a second opinion, but from hundreds or even thousands of experts?
Yes,
That seems like a pretty good strategy.
it is. It helps to reduce errors and biases, making the prediction more reliable.
Okay.
And then there's gradient boosting, another top performer in this study.
Gradient boosting, another one for the glossary.
Right.
What's that all about?
This one is more like a team of detectives working together,
Okay.
where each detective learns from the mistakes of the previous one.
So they're building on each other's work getting closer to the truth with each iteration.
Exactly. And then you have models like K-nearest neighbors,
Okay.
which is based on a simple idea. Things that are similar tend to behave similarly.
Kind of like how houses in the same neighborhood are usually priced similarly.
That's a great analogy. And finally, we have decision trees,
Okay.
which use a series of questions to break down the problem and arrive at a prediction.
So if this, then that, a bit like a flowchart, leading to different outcomes depending on the answers.
Precisely. And the researchers tested all these different models, and several of them proved to be incredibly accurate in predicting the total skin factor for oil wells.
It's fascinating how they used all these different approaches to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
But all this talk about models and algorithms, it can get a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
What's the main takeaway for someone who's not a data scientist?
The key takeaway is this. We can now use the power of computers and data to predict how oil wells will behave.
Okay.
With a level of accuracy that was simply not possible before.
So this is more than just a cool research project. It has real-world implications for the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely. It could change the way oil companies make decisions, from optimizing production to minimizing environmental impact. But of course, with any powerful technology, there are important considerations.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Sure.
What are some of the potential challenges or limitations of using machine learning this way?
One thing to remember is that these models are only as good as the data they're trained on. If the data is incomplete, biased, or just plain wrong, the predictions will be off.
Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Exactly.
So data quality is crucial.
Absolutely. And there's also the risk of overfitting, which is when a model becomes too specialized to the data it was trained on and doesn't generalize well to new situations.
So it's like training a dog to fetch a specific tennis ball, and then it gets confused when you throw a different one.
Exactly. To avoid this, it's crucial to test the models rigorously on different sets of data to make sure they can handle new situations.
Okay.
And that's exactly what the researchers did in this paper. They used robust methods to validate their models and ensure their accuracy.
That's reassuring. So it sounds like there's a lot of potential here. But we need to be mindful of the limitations and use these tools responsibly.
Exactly. It's about using machine learning to augment human expertise, not replace it entirely.
It's all about humans and machines working together to achieve a better outcome. Speaking of outcomes in Part 3, we'll explore the potential impact of this research on the oil and gas industry and beyond.
Sounds good.
We spent the last 2 parts talking about how machine learning can predict the performance of oil wells with incredible accuracy. But what does this actually mean for the future? Where does all this lead?
Well, this research gives us a glimpse into a future where data and machine learning play a key role in how we find, extract, and manage our energy resources.
So we're not just talking about making oil production more efficient, but also potentially reducing its environmental impact.
Exactly. Imagine being able to pinpoint exactly which wells are underperforming and then tailoring specific interventions to maximize their output.
Okay.
This could lead to less waste and a smaller environmental footprint.
That's really exciting. It's like giving each oil, well, a personalized treatment plan based on its unique characteristics.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
And on a larger scale, this technology could revolutionize how we manage entire oil fields.
Wow.
We could make much more accurate predictions about how a whole field will behave over time.
Okay.
Leading to better planning and resource allocation.
So we're talking about a more sustainable and efficient approach to oil and gas extraction.
Yeah.
That's something I think everyone can appreciate.
Absolutely. And as we gather more data and develop even more sophisticated models, the possibilities just keep expanding.
It's mind-blowing to think about where this could lead, but you mentioned earlier that this research has implications beyond just oil and gas. What are some other areas where this kind of technology could make a difference?
Think about any industry where complex systems generate massive amounts of data.
Okay.
Renewable energy, for example. Could we use machine learning to optimize the performance of wind farms or solar power plants?
That would be amazing. We can make clean energy even more efficient and reliable. What other applications come to mind?
Predicting and preventing equipment failures in manufacturing is another area ripe for this kind of technology. Imagine being able to anticipate problems before they happen.
Wow.
Reducing downtime and improving safety.
It sounds like the potential applications are practically limitless.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key message you'd like our listeners to take away?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We are entering an era where data is transforming the world around us. Those who understand and harness the power of data will be the ones who shape the future.
It's a powerful reminder that we need to stay curious, keep learning, and embrace these new technologies while being mindful of their potential impact.
Well said. And who knows what amazing discoveries await us in the future.
It's an exciting time to be alive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of machine learning and oil wells. We hope you learned something new and maybe even sparked your own curiosity to explore further. Until next time, stay curious.